Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm very happy to welcome you to the last roundtable of this conference, last but not least, and I really appreciate you for being here today. My name is Gwenaëlle Bauvois from the University of Helsinki, and I will be moderating this very exciting panel with my colleagues today. As you have understood very well throughout these 2 days, the Arenas project has 3 main themes: nation, science and gender, and we have had round panels about these 3 themes. And this round panel is a little bit different in a way that it will explore a transversal theme, and today we will explore the theme of medium and circulation, obviously a theme that is transversal with all the themes of the project. And we have been touching upon already, of course, the idea of how these extremist narratives are circulating and how do they move around different kind of media sphere and political spheres, and what kind of medium are being used for this circulation. So this is what we are going to explore today. And when we talk about the circulation of extremist narrative, it's mostly in the political, but also in the media space through different medium, referring to the various mediums through which these narratives are disseminated, circulated, and utilized across spatial but also temporal context. Of course, or as we have already discussed and touched upon many times during these 2 days, over the last 2 decades, let's say, the circulations of extremist narratives have surged, driven by the proliferation of diverse communication mediums, and of course the rise of the internet and social media has of course accelerated the viral spread of such narrative, amplifying their impact on societies globally. And these mediums of course allow extremist narrative to circulate from the fringe sphericals to the mainstream sphere and enable their rapid dissemination across national borders via the hybrid media system. And this system, this hybrid media system where content moves fluidly between different media types, allows also the users not only to consume the content, but also to produce content, to take the concept of producage developed by Bruns. So it really helps to also tailor to the needs of varied audiences. However, I want to make a point, and I think it's an important point, that we need to note that the circulation of extremist narrative predates the internet, because we are all the time talking about social media and the internet and so on. So we cannot entirely blame the spread of extremist narratives and the polarization of the debate only on technologies and algorithm, because of course today we are interested especially also in the historical roots, and our report is about the historical roots of extremist narrative. So of course we cannot just pretend that, okay, nothing happened before the internet and we have to blame the internet for everything. And for instance, I ask artificial intelligence to create an image to illustrate the circulation of extremist narratives. And you can see that it clearly, of course, not very accurate image and very dark, but the point I think that is really interesting here, it's that it really shows that when you ask about circulation of extremist narrative, it brings you social media. So you can see on this image, Facebook, X, Instagram, and so on. So it's often understood through the prism of social media and the internet. And of course, we need to go a little bit beyond that, because of course, while social media has indeed enhanced the viral reach of extremist narrative, these narratives have long been shared through other mediums, such as music, banners, posters, films, caricatures. We could talk also about graffitis. I don't know, there's so many kinds of mediums that have been also used in the past to share this narrative, but are still used today as well. So it's not only about the spread on the internet. And one equally important aspect we need to take into account is the recycling and adaptation process of extremist narratives. These narratives not only circulate across time and space, of course they do, but they also continually, they are being reinterpreted, they are being reshaped to suit new context. And that's what we will be exploring today in this roundtable. And although we are, of course, experiencing a unique political moment with the electoral success of the far right in various European countries, and we can, of course, argue that every political time are unique in their own way, but of course we live in this context and we cannot, of course, put that aside, that, of course, we are living in this time where the far right has been enjoying, let's put it that way, an electoral success that is, of course, very prominent. But many of the extremist narratives in circulation today are not new, and we need to remember that they are not new, they don't come out of the vacuum. They have been recycled from earlier periods, and the actors throughout this different period of time, they are reinterpreting these ideas and these narratives to fit more contemporary context and more relevant context for these actors at this specific moment of time. And despite these adaptations and these readaptations, the underlying ideologies and the underlying narratives that we can see often remain deeply rooted in historical precedents. And I think that we can all agree on that. It's something we've been exploring together for these past 2 days. So this pattern of recycling reflects the adaptability of extremist narratives, which allows them to persist across time and across spaces while remaining relevant to contemporary political and cultural environments. So this is just a brief introduction, and we will go deeper, and we have very fascinating case studies today. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists today. You have already met some of them, and they've been already enlightening us with their comments in other panels as well. And the first one will be on my right, Miguel Ángel del Río, Associate Professor in the Department of Modern and Contemporary History in the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and member of the Center of Dictatorship and Democracy Studies that have been already mentioned several times. And his research focuses on the far-right studies, Spanish conservative parties in the 20th and 21st century, and the comparison of political history between European and East Asian countries in the 20th century, and is working in the task 3.2 about the historical roots of extremist narrative in VP3 in the Arena project. And we'll have the honor to hear something about how extremist discourses and narrative can often be embedded in current and popular music. So very exciting talk, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Gwenaëlle, for this presentation. We'll talk about a little bit about this kind of radical or extremist music. So extremist discourses and narratives can often be covertly embedded in a current and a popular music, often through lyrics based on nationalism or glorification of the past. The pursuit of extremes, often by the young people, finds a response in exclusionary and identitary rhetoric. Movements such as the white power music, including rock against the communists, rock, develop a message of hatred and identity-based and supremacism, grasping a powerful music and melodies that leave no one different. Many recurring ideas are shared, such as racism, anti-Semitism, anti-progressism, anti-multiculturalism, the glorification of the Nazism, and the odes of the heterosexual and male to force the white Europe, pagan or Christian, we will talk about, through violence and strength. This goes hand in hand with odes to the nature of the fatherland and the need to eliminate those who are not considered or are considered outside of the pure idyllic community: Muslims, Jews, foreigners, homosexual. Here we have some presenting some examples of rock, is rock against music, communists, excuse me. In the case of rock music, but in its punk oi variant, we find its origin in the English working class sphere during the 70s, especially in the neo-Nazi skinhead movement and the political parties, National Front and British National Front. The music is based on punk oi music with skinhead aesthetic, combat boots, etc., lyrically based on hooligan culture of alcohol, patriotism, hatred and violent attacks against immigrants or refugees, the defense of the white Europe, the race war, anti-Semitic conspiracies, among others. One of the most important groups we can see here was Screwdriver and its founder, Ian Stewart. He has an organization called Blood and Honor that is the most important on neo-Nazi movement. But we can not forget another groups such as No Remorse, Brutal Attack, or Schoolhead. Songs with titles such as Free My Land, Europe Awake, 46 Years, song in honor of the Nazi Rudolf Hess, Invasion, Voice of Britain give us an example of the songs and themes of these groups. In the case of rock music, but in its National Socialistic black metal variant, we have to go back to the origins of the Norwegian black metal, music essence during the 90s. Groups such as Burzum, we can see an image here, and its leader, Barbie Kernes, began to develop a new category of black metal music that was musically based on Norwegian groups such, for example, Mayhem, Emperor, Immortal, Drag Throne, but the lyrics move away from the traditional Satanism towards to neo-paganism or Odinism, to leading to the extreme nationalist or national socialistic movement. Although Barbie Kernes, we have the image, is a neo-pagan white supremacist and has been arrested and found guilty of inciting riot violence in France as well, and weapons and murders. Now, Burzum music is in general never really went beyond the generic traditionalistic pagan themes. So, but that idea of the National Socialistic idea of the black metal was followed by a lot of groups in Europe. Especially in France, we have the group called Funeral or Kristallnacht. We have here the image. Peste Noire, the Germans Absurd or Aryan Blood, the Finns Guadmon, or the Greeks Godwulf, or the Russian Melov. Titles such When the Swastikas Light Up the Sky, Burning the Gates of Theon, Defenders to the Aryan Race, give us an idea of the theme of the songs. The cult of Nazism, anti-Semitism, odes to the white Europe, the odes to the national pagan cultures are recurring themes in all these groups. And if you can pass the next one. Here we have an example of the lyrics. We can write, we can see this lyric of Kristallnacht. United in a sign of salvation, I raise the emblem of Aryan Empire as a successor of the SS. I fulfill the will of my Führer. This strife of our victory, my life for our leader. I prize this following blood and divine gift so precious. I hear the chants of agony on the path to our conquering battles. This strife for our victory, my life for our leader. Glory to you, soldiers of Germany. I'll never forget your acts. I hail those who died for the consecration of a new order. Say hail. This is a kind of music of black metal, and there's a lot of band, it's Guadmun, that it's in the same way. So I think it's this extreme music, we can find it, and we could talk more later, but you can find this music in all the platforms, digital platforms. So I think...
In and out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what is very fascinating about music.
Yeah. Yes, totally.
Yeah, thank you so much, because obviously music has been an important medium for a lot of far-right group and neo-Nazi group, and again, they exist at the same time in and out the social media platform, and they existed way before, and it was really a mean for constructing identity and spreading this extremist narrative, and it's something we haven't touched upon yet, so thank you so much for that. Now we are moving to a different kind of medium, and I'm really happy to introduce my colleague Jure Gašparič, who is an historian. Most of you must know him. He's also research counselor in the Institute for Contemporary History in Ljubljana, and his expertise area are Slovenian and Yugoslav political history, Central Europe area in the 19th, 20th century. You can also, if I'm missing something, you can fill me in, and history of parliamentarism. And Jure will present like a totally different kind of medium that is going to bring another layer of understanding. You will be talking about posters and banners that are used as a means of spreading narrative through an historical perspective. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gwen, for this nice, kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, since it's siesta time, after lunchtime, I decided to begin using the technique that we usually study in our project, storytelling. So let me begin with a very short story so that you won't fall asleep. Imagine socialist Yugoslavia, the country that doesn't exist anymore, 1987. The country is already on its deathbed. And every spring in Yugoslavia, they held a ritual called the Rally of Youth. It is known thing in the socialism. The regime maintained the personality cult of the late Marshal Tito with this ritual. And this event was very important and also heavily supported by propaganda. And every year, among other things, a special poster had to be made. And in 1987, the competition was won by that solution, and everyone was more than happy. The League of Communists, the army, all the commissions. But it soon turned out that this solution actually was not original, that it was a remake of famous Richard Klein's Nazi painting from 1930s. So the regime that built its ideological fundament on the anti-Nazism, anti-fascism, unknowingly decided for the picture from the Nazi times. Only the symbols, of course, were changed. The flag behind, of course, is Yugoslav. So I guess you all imagine after 2 days what I want to say, so I'll skip the depiction. I could tell you how the affair, of course, was born. Many were embarrassed. Gwen, unfortunately, won't allow me now to tell you how the affair ended, but it's very interesting because we don't have enough time. We can talk about this during the dinner. But let's go on step by step. This was only for the introduction. Let me briefly, in a minute or two, answer some basic questions about the poster as a communication tool, because I think it's very important because of what you said earlier at the beginning. It didn't begin with the invention of internet, the whole circulation with the extremist narratives. We have other media that are still present and very influential even today. Among other things, poster, I did a case study on collection of Slovenian poster, but I think if we take into account the literature, the findings can be generalized. You all know historically political poster appear in the 19th century. Mainly they initially provided information, but since First World War and after, in the interwar period, they became also a motivational tool. They spread idea and emotion, nationalism, hatred of the political opponent. The narrative, the image of the world during that times, of course, was quite simple, black and white, us and them, things that we have been addressing for the last 2 days. You remember Natalie's poster yesterday. It was it was a poster providing information, but clearly depicting goods and bads, jazz musicians and Volkslieder. Next slide, please. You have upstairs, right, and Arte de Musik. This is one of a kind.
So again, music.
Yeah, the jazz musician is clearly a monkey, so the message is quite clear. And Arte de Musik, help me, this is music without the artistic component. No? So, yeah, decadent. Yeah.
Art is a waste too, so can translate it as waste.
Yeah. So much about history, but even with the appearance of other media, also later on with the radio in the Nazis time, you know, that Goebbels invented the Volksradio and the internet later today, the poster remained very influential. If you ask me, we could argue that it is one of the most influential media of modern times. And even now, at least for Slovenia, we can say we have research that the poster is in first place when it comes to recalling political content. When public opinion surveys, when you ask people what do you remember from the last elections, people recall the poster, the banner they saw on the highway, not all the content they saw on the social media. And elements of the poster also are present then in the social media. First you have to invent the poster, and then of course you input it into the digital world. So the poster is, we should not oversee its meaning, it's historically proven, cost-effective, simple, low-tech tool, and what is important, if you ask me, it establishes parties' physical presence. This is why all the parties use it, because they're not some abstract idea in the internet. They're there. They're here on the ground, fighting for you, near the highway, wherever. What to put on the poster? Well, as you know, the poster space is limited. There's only one page. We had a huge debate with Gwen when we were preparing this panel. She proposed that everyone should use only one slide, and we were all protesting. No, of course we need more. But well, when we talk about the poster, you have only one page. So what to put on? What did all the parties put on? Party's name. Often picture of the leader, because politics is of course very personalized today, and one strong slogan. These are three crucial elements, and this is feature of all parties, so this is quite boring media. There is not much place
but
to
efficient.
boring but efficient. I agree. We can talk when with this question when I know. With this question, when, because I also addressed the question, use of poster during the election campaigns and during referenda and otherwise. This is an important issue, but maybe we'll discuss it later if it comes out. Migrants, I studied the problem with the migrants, but if we focus only on the elections, I have to put one message on the table. Posters do target everyone, not just the target audience. There isn't any kind of filter like on the social media. So they have to be used wisely. You cannot just bump the general audience with one provocative message if you want to achieve something. You target everyone. And every political party, conservatives, liberals, right-wing, left-wing parties, even far-right parties, are aware of that fact, if you ask me. They use posters wisely. So the fundamental question is how to shape the message, how to tailor the message. We were mentioning the framing, other tools, they do use them. I do not have a lot of examples because of the limited space, but I'll pass this. But en general, we could skip to the last. This is, if I conclude, this is, let's say, signed official propaganda. Targets all, everyone is careful. It's clear and present, cannot be relativized. So it's not, en general, overwhelmed with extremist narratives. We can spot, of course, certain elements that help frame the narrative. So today, I would argue posters represent the door entry points to parties, to politicians, an invitation that is still quite polite, preferably universal. So if we connect this with the story from the beginning, what does it tell us? As said, those who base their ideology on anti-Nazism admired the Nazi poster because it seemed propaganda effective, and they also liked the narrative behind the glorious march ahead. Only the details were different. But during the war, as I mentioned earlier, posters were much more clear. The distinction between us and them was much more clear. And if we take a look at the last AfD campaign in Sachsen, in Thüringen, those three posters are from 1 month ago, we could spot that the message there is much more clear than it was on previous election or previous election. So we might assume that this party is now targeting everyone. They made one step ahead. So perhaps this could be a warning sign. And one more element I wanted to point out is the humor. You see the poster on the far right, Sommer, Sonne, Remigration, summer, sun, remigration. I mean, I think someone might assume that this is funny, but this is also a very powerful tool. How to normalize, how to relativize the extreme narrative, the extreme speech. You don't tell them, hey, piss off, go to Africa. You just send them on holidays during the summer times. I assume you all know this poster on the left. We take care of our children. This was very problematic because it was, if you ask me, more than clear. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Jure. And I think it's really interesting to talk about this medium because it's not a medium of the past. It is still used, but because people will be maybe growing with the internet might forget that it's actually something that is still being used, and especially in electoral times. And also that a lot of visual that you might see on social media, they do resemble kind of a virtual poster. So it is just a continuation of that kind of medium. And their goal is quite a lot the same. It's just that they might not operate in the same space, but they operate offline and online at the same time these days. Mm.
But they differ between each other because the ones on the social media, they're more targeted. They can be more concrete.
Yes.
The ones on the highway are much more
For
hidden
everybody
and yes, I mean, humorous.
Yes. Mm. Thank you. And now we are going back maybe to the realm of the internet with the next presentation of my colleague Yara Postigo Fuentes. It's again fell, but so Yara is a researcher and lecturer at the Department of Romanistic at the University of Düsseldorf, and she's the coordinator of VP2, and we're really happy that she's holding that position, which focuses on the characterization and detection of extremist narrative from a qualitative and quantitative linguistic approach. And in her presentation, Yara will explore humor on the internet, especially through memes. So it's a kind of a continuation also from the previous one. So the floor is yours.
Actually, funny enough, we never practiced that, so it is great that it is kind of like, an introduction, soft one. So thank you so much. Actually, this is not new about the relationship between far right and memes, and there is a reason why it started being slowly studied. And I hope that after this presentation I disentangle it a bit, the different reasons, and particularly that I connect it with what occupies us actually in arenas, that is extremist narratives. Because, so I really like pushing the limits, so it fascinates me the idea of should humor have limits? And if yes, who sets the limits, right? I mean, that's always the discursive question about it. I will use the Spanish case as example, but this could be applied to many other cases. First of all, just a brief definition of meme, and I would like to go to the very first one because I think it was very good, very complete, and it is very accurate to what we understand nowadays as meme. And it comes from Richard Dawkins in the 76th book, The Selfish Gene. And he talks about meme being a significant part of culture, in this case, the online culture, that express rapidly, typically taking the form of an amusing and thought-provoking image, video, or text that conveys humor, satire, or commentary on cultural symbols and social ideas. We all know that the memes helps us to express emotions, but as well for commenting on political issues, and it also creates communities, which is quite important in what I will explain ahead. As well, I think it will be very important to highlight two characteristics about the memes. One, it's how highly shareable they are, and that they have to be, and this is important, they have to be easily modified. And this is very important because of the concept of this round table. One of them, it's the circulation of narratives, right? I will start with this one. So I think this one doesn't need a particularly translation. We can see, a progression of time and different representations of what will be the particular needs of people in those times. And funny enough, think that satire and parody have traditionally been tools for critique and entertainment, which already, when you create that means that you position yourself in the role of the underdog, the one that needs to rebel against the system, right? So this is already a framing part of it. As well, it has a very powerful use because it wraps up radical ideas in the form of humor that already Jure started to introducing. And of course, that start being introduced in different bubbles that doesn't need to be particularly radical. Which is very interesting because that means that memes like this one, I have particularly many friends that have shared something very similar, if not the same meme. You can relate easily with them. In that case, you can start introducing people to more radical messages. In this case, we have already talked about the shifting of the overtone window once again. There it is. But as well, it is quite interesting, a phenomenon that happens. It is called in the internet the red pilling. Okay, so do you have this image of Matrix having to take the red pill or the blue pill? Of course. So if you take the red pill, you start seeing the system as it is. So you are calling for action, right? So, by accepting these kind of messages that are more tolerable, you start skipping something that at the beginning could be censored by other publics. And with other publics, I refer to what we have been referring in arenas as in-between group, so people that don't belong to the in-group or the out-group. And in the internet, they are called the normies. So the other public that they are still in the middle of the cultural battle. Now, there is a very interesting character used. I think this is in the meme sphere. It is called chat. The chat, the giga chat, has been used not only by the far right, because we have discussed that a lot. The chat is more an attitude. And it is an attitude of entitlement about the beliefs and ideas that you have, which is very powerful, whatever ideology you support. So the point is that the appearance of the chat, in this image, you can see the chat in the inferior part, the right. Okay, so it's this manly, handsome guy, heterosexual, cis, white. So this is how it is portrayed by the right or far right spheres. And anyways, it is an attitude of entitlement about my ideas are okay, meaning that that can lead to the complex situations like different attitudes. For example, being a racist. If you are accused of being a racist, but you are super entitled of that, you can say like, yes, you are holding it as a chat. Which is very funny because the first appearance of the chat, it was versus the virgin. So in the meme sphere, it was chat versus virgin, which makes already an in-group and an out-group, right? I mean, who wants to be in the attitude of chat and who wants to be in the attitude of the virgin? So it is already giving you a character to identify. It is super interesting that I'm going on with this research about what characteristics are being attributed to the chat, particularly in different kind of polemics or different kind of points of history, but as well in general as a discursive analysis of the right-wing sphere, and particularly. I am very, I try to compare as well with other kind of spheres. In this one, for those that don't speak Spanish, you have the presentation of las pibas, it is a way of saying the girls, the woman. It says, I'm a millionaire, and she says like, oh, it's perfect. And then she says like, we have to kick out the moros, so it is, that it's already a way of calling the people from Muslim backgrounds that are immigrants, a very despective one. And he says, it is perfect, okay? So, you know, in a very short image, you are entitling a person with the message of being, not only being racist, but as well valuing that in the women that could accompany it, which already entangles together many different discourses that we have been once again and again and again discussing all these round tables. So for me, it is super important not only how the in-group is portrayed through the chat, but as well how the out-group is portrayed, that is often like the virgin, and the message that through the red pilling you are giving, you want to be a chat, you don't want to be a virgin, right? So, and that brings me to our favorite topics, narratives. So we have been talking again and again about a very typical arc of narratives about glorifying the past, distorting the present, and a promising future. So we have been observing by the analysis of data that we have been collecting about that memes very often are used for this glorifying the past. So I think the first one you can understand it is Spain before the Reconquista, Spain after the Reconquista. Everyone understands the concept of Reconquista. Very funny that we exported that term. And then we have a glorification of Francoism. So with Franco we lived better, or with Franco these things didn't happen. And it is irony use of, everything was so dark during Franco times, and then against the Phil Guy. Okay, Phil Guy is the neutral kind of person in memes, so you know, the normie that you can transform into a virgin or a chat. Sorry? Oh. And then you have another one that it is like, again, of course, criticizing Pedro Sánchez, that it is about co-living, that it's the trend of young people to live together, which is already a mockery. But it contrasts with a glorifying past, right? So in this way, we have this glorious past, a decadent present, which is already seeding. If I have like this kind of memes, I get into these kind of circles that they start sharing these kind of discourses. It starts seeding the perfect context of the promising future. That it's the one that Sergi is going to explain ahead. So in this way, we have this context of like the arc of the narrative. Thank you. Please.
Thank you so much, Yara, for this crash course on memes and this introduction of this lovely chat. And very nice transition, because indeed, from the past, we will be going to the promising future with our last panelist, last but not least, a face that is familiar on this table today. Sergi Soler, who is a researcher with a background in contemporary history, and is affiliated with the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and currently focusing his research on political communication, narrative building, and political history. And as I just said, he will be tackling something quite similar, but going to the direction of the future. So the stage is yours.
Thank you for the kind presentation. And thank you, Naria, for introducing a lot of concepts that I will also talk about here. So the first thing that I wanted to point out is that this division we made of the narrative about glorification of the past and depicting this decadent present and then promising a hopeful future. And we believe it's great and works really well, because at the moment we analyze a narrative, the more divided it is, the better we can get all the nuances and distinctions between these parts. So first of all, I wanted to talk about some topic that's already been discussed in this Congress, but I wanted to address anyways, and that's of emotions. Because I feel like we have a bit of misconceptions about emotions and how the right and the left uses the emotions. Because there are a lot of studies that I will, of course, not contradict, and I support, indeed. But there are a lot of studies and researches that link very much hate and fear and this kind of feelings and anger towards more the extreme right and the right side. But I think that when we divide the narrative like we did, we can realize that this part of fear and anger and hate, it's only present in the depiction of the decadent present, but not in the rest of the narrative. When you analyze the hopeful future, the extreme right also uses hope. And in a way, the Make America Great Again slogan, it's the yes we can of the far right. But it's hopeful for them, of course, not for us. But for them, it's hopeful, not fear. And the left is just the other way around. They depict a scary future. They also play with fear. They play with the fear of the extreme right getting to positions of power. And that's also fear. So both ideological sides use a lot of different emotions. It's not just the extreme right uses hate and uses anger and the left uses hope and common sense. They both use both feelings. And I feel like sometimes we overlook at that and we associate really quickly far right with hate and of course they use that. Of course they use that. But in the hopeful future, they use hope. And that's what I will be talking about a little bit here. Because when you depict a certain future, in order for them to vote you, you need to make them want that future. And how do you make them want that future? One of the elements you use is soft power. And soft power is a concept introduced by Harvard professor Joseph Nye. And he applied this concept to geopolitics. But I believe that we can very much apply it also when talking about narratives, because we are in the middle of a cultural war. So soft power will be used. And what is soft power? I'm happy I'm the last, because I get to say that all of the panelists presented you with examples of soft power, which is ways of persuasion and ways of more on the cultural side of persuasion. So is it true that there are a lot of methods of diffusion and circulation of these
Sorry about that.
No. Recurrent problem, I guess.
Yes.
Where was I? The rest of the panelists presented you with a lot of methods of circulation, but I want to go deeper into one of the most common ways of introducing extremist narratives to the mainstream public, and that's, for example, late-night TV shows. And I'm sure our Spanish audience will be able to think about some of TV late-night shows that supposedly are about entertainment. And when you you watch them, you expect to be like entertained with magic tricks or science experiments, or other TV late night shows where when you put them to watch, you expect to watch some cool like studies about aliens and UFOs and ghosts and spirits, but suddenly they are making speeches about anti-feminism, they are making speeches about white supremacism, or they are making speeches about how the Olympic Games at Paris were a Masonic ritual. And the mainstream public watches those shows. And this is a danger for various reasons. And I will go into especially two of them. The first one is that your ideological defenses, so to speak, are really low at that moment. Because you want to watch an entertainment show. And you think you are going to watch an entertainment show. So you are relaxed. You go back you get home back from work, it's 8 p.m., you make dinner, it's 9 p.m., you put the show and you are relaxed, you are chilled, you are not ready for a political fight because you think you are not going to watch any political discourse, any political message. So that is a way of let's say, introducing the message really slowly and start shifting little by little again the Overton window. The other element that makes these late night shows dangerous is that usually the emitter is someone you trust, is someone you associate with wellness, with entertainment, with relaxation. So it's like when your uncle or your cousin sends you a WhatsApp with news, and you don't contrast the news because you immediately trust it. It's a similar way of trusting this person that you know that you associate with a moment of happiness and relaxation. So the Overton window, the Overton window moves. And the other day I was discussing with some colleagues about how it was really ugly, how it is really ugly to have 10,000 neo-Nazis in your country. Is it really ugly? But as long as you have 3 million normies, they won't win any election. At the moment that these normies, that this mainstream public start shifting and start buying into these narratives, then you have a real problem. So then when that happens, you start hearing these sentences and these phrases in bars and talking to friends, and they start saying something like, no, I'm not racist, but no, I'm not misogynistic, but feminism has gone too far. No, the immigration problem is, we need to take care of that. No, but I'm not racist, but. And those are the mainstream public. These people win or lose elections. So this is a real danger. Not only the 10,000 neo-Nazis. This radicalization of the mainstream, it's also a really, it's a thing to keep an eye out, for sure. And yeah, the next one, because I forgot to tell you to change the slide.
Okay.
It's my bad. Of course, not everyone watches the TV. And who doesn't watch the TV? Especially younger generations. So where do you find younger generations? Into social media, Twitter, but not only Twitter, TikTok,
Yes.
YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. There are a lot of places, and not to talk about subforums like Reddit, 4chan, 8chan. There are so many internet cultures that are extremely radicalized. I want to focus more on the example of TikTok, Shorts, Instagram Reels, because it's where the mainstream young people is. 4chan and 8chan are forums of heavy radicalization, but most of the people, the mainstream public, is not there. The mainstream public is on TikTok. The mainstream public is on YouTube. And I'm really happy also that Yara introduced you the term red pilling, because the podcast you can see in this image, it's called Red Pill Podcast. And it's about awakening from the matrix. And I will translate what this screenshot says. The translation would be something like, without men, women would die of hunger. And this podcast has millions of views. It's not something to ignore. And there are a lot of young people, and statistics say so, and a lot of data say so, that young people is heavily radicalizing. And they are, in fact, especially vulnerable to radicalization for their youth, for their inexperience. So this is also another thing to keep an eye out, because the message in YouTube, in TikTok, in this kind of social platforms tends to be a lot more violent, a lot more radical, a lot more direct, and it adapts perfectly to the 10 seconds video format, because you have the populist argument very easy to explain in 10 seconds.
Time out.
So, okay, sorry.
No, you can still finish.
No. I finish with that. Yeah, social media, another thing to keep an eye out, and mainly to prevent the radicalization of the younger people that will be the future voters. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sergi. This is a little bit boring for sure, but this point about adapting the medium to the audience is a really nice way to move the conversation a little bit further. And of course, in today's media landscape is quite fragmented. As we all know, something we've been discussing already, and extremist groups or like influencer, like this podcaster, for instance, they will and they do tailor their messages to specific audiences across various channels, as we have been today discussing, using various mediums. Might it be on social media, might it be music, might it be all kinds of different mediums. And this targeted approach allows them to reach different demographic with customized content, which of course makes our effort to counteract their influence. It makes it quite difficult, it complicates things. And of course it also makes our effort to counteract their spread more difficult. Oh yeah, I'm not as close. Okay, it's better. I get carried away, so I forget the mic. So I wanted to ask you, how do extremist groups tailor their message to these different audiences? And what challenges does this pose for effort to counter extremist narrative, which is what we are trying to do in Arena's project? So maybe we can start with you.
Okay,
so
thank you.
To share your views.
I think in the case of extreme music, the main distribution of the channels are the new technological networks, internet, and mainly YouTube, Spotify, or Bandcamp. There, the groups themselves distribute their music without intermediates. Gone are fanzines, cassette trending, physical underground record stores, or labels such as PC Records, Panther Faust Records, Resistance Records, etc. Live shows, or maybe political rallies. Nowadays, you don't need to have, for example, to make music a big studio or big record label to make an album. Nowadays, you can record and master instruments at home using an easy-to-use program such Adobe Audition or Reaper. I think another interesting point is to talk about artificial intelligence and how this tool offers a range of possibilities, in this case for the music. There are so many, I think, reasons why not ideological people, especially young people, could attract by this kind of music. For example, in the extreme music, especially in the black metal, NS music, I think the fascination for the extremes with the music and the lyrics and the historical background of these songs, glorious to the past, the epic, the bombastic nature of the live performance. I mean, is you see black metal is everybody it's corpse prints, large flags, emblems, fire. They are covered and the feeling to belonging a big community. So this is a good point. I think that this is a ritual of the live music and also plays, in the case of extreme music, a fundamental role, especially in the case of this kind of music. And we can see, or we can find some festivals exclusive of black metal National Socialistic. One of the most famous, it's been held in Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Asgard Drey Festival. Some footage from last edition festival shows members of the audience widely giving the Nazi salute during the performance of the groups. And on the other hand, these kind of festivals provide an important point of contact for many far-right groups in this project to build a pan-European community of right-wing extremism. The festival has hosted an international conference of far-right ideologues where discuss topics such as Nordic paganism and metaphysics. I think
Metaphysics.
yeah, I think one idea that told Sergi is about this kind of programs talk about ovnis, metaphysics, and their relationships with the far right. So in this,
So then we have again the connection
Yes.
with science,
yes,
which is unexpected.
Yes, yes. So I think in the case of extreme music, I think the new technological networks is the key. I think in YouTube and Spotify and Bandcamp you can find these groups. There's no, I think, there's no border or ethical border. So I think it's an ethical problem for this kind of networks to ban directly these messages of hate in these massive platforms. I think that's for extreme music. I would say this is the case.
Yeah. So you think like it has really accelerated the spread of this narrative
Yeah.
because they can reach their target audience much easier,
Yeah, sure. With
in and offline.
yeah, with YouTube and Spotify and Bandcamp, you can find bands that you will never find by your own.
Yeah, because they're so marginal and so niche.
Yeah. So maybe if I like one kind of music, maybe I like black metal music, but it's not National Socialistic music
No.
yet. But I can find this group.
Yeah. And you might be able to recognize, but a lot of
Yes.
young audience might not be able to recognize that this is actually a neo-Nazi, neo-nationalist. Yes.
I maybe I like the cover art. Oh, I think
Yes.
that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds
Let's see
cool.
what people say, and this, I think it's dangerous
Yes.
because the lyrics are hate,
Yes.
100%.
Yes, if I may, just
Yeah, of
just
course,
one.
jump in.
Yeah, about that, because I totally agree, because I suffered it in my own flesh when I was like 15, 16, I don't remember. And I've always been more into rap music. And I listened to this German rapper, and I didn't understand anything that he was saying.
Yeah, that's the language thing. So
Yeah.
you like the music, you like the medium, but you don't
Yeah.
understand that it
Yeah.
might be hateful.
Yeah, and it was a
That's
cool
it.
video clip
That's it.
with a cool music, and it felt pretty good. And then when I grew up and I went to listen to that, because one day I remember that German rapper. Let me hear it again, and I was like, oh my god, like it was the most anti-Semitic neo-Nazi guy I have ever heard, and I was like, oh my god, how could I? But imagine the number of people that was victim of this, right?
Yeah, but music is really a powerful medium.
Yeah.
Like it has been way before the advent of the internet. But as you say, it's probably accelerating its spread and its reach.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Jure. Do you have some comment or something you would like to share on that topic?
I might.
You might. I'm sure you do. So now is your time.
Only a thought or two. No, I think it's a twofold problem. One side of the coin are the niche groups that far right parties want to target. Okay, you can find a channel, you can find a group, and tailor the message. But I think that we all agree now today that the far bigger problem is the general public. It's okay, this is not original.
That's
Now
how it trickles down.
shifting the overtone window. I mean, doing like I think that Natalie, yesterday you quoted my dear Joseph Goebbels, and he said that we are the wahre Volksregierung. He said in that famous speech, I think we're not satisfied if we win 52% of the voters. I mean, and terrorize the rest 48. Okay, they did that. They did terrorize the rest 48. But he said that we want to influence the other 48. We want 100 for us, and this is far the biggest problem. So this is why we have to be careful when mainstream media or posters, banners around the highways are there with a message that we would consider extreme.
Yeah, and a lot of these posters and signs, there is not so much control, and sometimes they can be because it's a public space, and we can see, like, for instance, this we mentioned yesterday, like this Nemesis collective in France, this feminist but anti-immigration at the same time, and they do use posters a lot, like feminist groups do. So then the message is a bit blurred, because if you don't know where it's coming from, it might give you the wrong message and just bring you to the direction where you were not expecting to go. Same with some of the German rap. So it's a bit of the same phenomena. Anna, Yara, do you have some thought on the topic?
Actually, yes, and I'm gonna focus on the second part of the question about efforts to counter extremist narratives, and I think a very important thing it is to actually define what are those extremist narratives, what are those narratives, because if not, how are we actually countering them if we cannot really shape them or think and reflect about them? And it is not a secret that I talk a lot about how we can reduce the narrative to the minimal unit. So what is like what does need to change of the narrative to make it a complete different narrative, or it is still the same one? And I think that has to do a lot with what we have been talking now, and it is the circulation of the narrative, because we have been seeing that the same narrative shapes in different ways, and that's how it travels through different times, different spaces, different mediums, but the narrative remains. So what is that core of the narrative? How can we go really to this note of the narrative, and how we can see, and this is the most important part, who goes under the umbrella of those narratives? And I think that's how we are going to see some patterns of the circulation. For instance, something that you all, I think, know, during the pandemic time, we saw a lot of anti-vax kind of narratives, and that they were against the measures of the government and so on. Suddenly, another kind of groups will join in there. So it were more illiberate kind of tendencies that will go under the same narrative, because they will have, we could suppose here, the same purpose, okay? So just different reasons, but the same purpose, okay? Now, there are other narratives that come together, and I'm not sure to what point it is for the same kind of solution. For instance, my brother goes to the gym, okay? He loves going to the gym. He is super well shaped, so he started checking videos about nutrition and how to do better sport and so on. And he knows what I study, okay? So he comes to me and he says, like, Ana Yara, the weirdest things happened to me. The next suggestion for my videos was about, it is called in Spain, seducers. So it is guys that... Yeah, so that they start sharing tricks for seducing and so on. And up to what point, you know, it is a very misogynist kind of perspective and so on, but you can say, like, okay, gym, these seducers, it's okay. But suddenly, he realizes that at the same time, it connects him to other bubble, that it is about imperialistic kind of glorification of the past. So people that will, go to the gym, seduce women, and as well defend the tercios españoles. So it is like the conquista. And he starts seeing this in a very weird way, and I find it fascinating. I love this, and to connect it with our third topic, because we already connected with gender, and we already connected with nation. Now, these bubbles connect with another bubble that they are related with the Annan Bomber. Do you know this person? So he writes a manifesto regarding science and so on. So it is very interesting how, again, we see those groups connecting with science, right? I mean, and he only wants to go to the gym, okay? I promise you. He has no other tendencies. But that's how you start getting into those nodes. And if you see it from, like, if you see the connection of Telegram channels, how they feed each other, like you can see the metadata on how they feed each other different materials, it is very interesting what nodes they connect. And I insist, maybe we need to really reduce those narratives to the minimum, so to see what actually it is that they are sharing, not the shape of it, which is very interesting, of course, from a linguistic point of view, I mean. But as well, to understand what motivates it to share it from one point to another, and then it is when I think we can suggest how to counter them. But first, I think we need to understand that part.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think your brother's example is a good example, because they are exactly, they are exactly a target. And I think research has been done on that. And some researchers have been creating some fake profiles on social media to see what kind of videos and content would be proposed to them. And for instance, if you are like a young man who is into sport, your probability of being exposed to extremist content related to the manosphere or to anti-immigration group is much higher than if you are, let's say, a 50-year-old woman. So, and it's exactly when we talk about the targeting of the audience, and it's something that, of course, is due to the algorithm that is provided by the platform. And of course, we go back to the issue of the responsibility and the accountability of this platform. And yeah, because you say we need to understand like the chain of this. But at the same time, something needs to be done if they are identified, and they've been identified, and what is being done by the platform to try to break these chains.
Yeah,
So that's a very big topic that we will not solve today, but it's obviously a very important part of the series. Not tomorrow either. Maybe at the end of our project we will have like a better idea and some solution on that for sure. Yeah, I had more questions, but maybe I think since we've been talking quite a bit, we could perhaps open to the audience to make it a little bit more conversational. So
Everyone is tired.
if everybody's tired, if you are tired, I have more questions to our esteemed panelists. But if they are okay, so there are plenty of questions. So let's take a couple first. If you can maybe bring the mic to the gentleman in front. I think he was the first to raise his hand. So many questions, so many hands up.
Short question.
So let's the short question, and we try to take a few. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I was moved by the meme that you shared about Pedro Sanchez, and it made me think that memes have always, or many times, they have a component of truth. That's something that we don't want to see many times because the truth is inconvenient or doesn't agree with our beliefs. But sometimes they hit a nerve, or they say something that is a real problem, like the living, housing problem now in Spain and whatever. But something that I never hear around is that being right about the diagnosis of a problem, it doesn't automatically imply being right about the solution. There is a big difference on the diagnose, on the right diagnose and the right solution. And the far right, sometimes, and we have to agree that sometimes they hit real problems.
Of course.
Yes, of course, yes.
And that's
why it works.
That's why it
Exactly.
works. Because sometimes the left, they don't want to talk about those problems, or they even deny them. It's like immigration, okay? Can we open immigration completely 100% to everyone who wants to come to the first world? No, but no one will agree on that if we are discussing on a left side informational cage or tourism. Yeah, everyone is about sustainable tourism, but what does it mean? Where is the red line? Yeah, who can come? We can increase the price of the plane tickets and then only the rich can fly or whatever, or we can put like a number of flights per person a year. No one wants to really discuss this problem. So the far right are using them. And they, of course, they come with their non-solutions or whatever crazy ideas that are emotionally and easily understandable for the people. But there is a responsibility also on the left and the progressive side of the society to really address honestly these problems, and they are not doing it in many occasions.
Thanks for your comment. Question. I think there was a question on this side, and we take on the other side. Yes. Okay.
Me first? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see much with the light, so.
I have a question for Yara. At first, you were talking about what to do with these counter narratives, and you said the most difficult question of all time, which is, can we like censor or not? And I think that this question is, well, unresolvable, because where do you draw the line? That was the question.
And who?
And who draws the line, which is also very,
draw the line.
very interesting. Do you think that these questions attempt to freedom of speech? Because many people would say that this is censorship, and that we must admit everything under freedom of speech, because we think that we are in a democratic society where all opinions are valid, or not. Because, for example, we can see with memes that we have seen here, and I would add another one of Elon Musk, who said a few days ago that with Taylor Swift that he would give her a child. So is this freedom of speech?
And protect her cats.
And protect her cats. So how can we fight against that? That's my question, because that some people might see that as freedom of speech, even though it's absolutely horrendous, and so many people would see that as maybe even a crime, sexual abuse, sexual assault, or something like that, even if it's digital. So what can we do against that if the question of banning some narratives or some messages is discarded?
Thank you. And Natalie, you had some quick comment or question?
And they're coming.
Yes, there are more coming.
No problem. Yes, I was very happy that you talked about posters, because when I have a class about National Socialism and the rise of National Socialism, I once said, yes, the posters were the social media of today, and that's true that Goebbels wrote already in the 20s really a text about how to use posters for propaganda already in the 20s, and where were the best strategies to shape the message in a poster, and that were really the main media, and it was about, as it is today, about getting a dominant position in public space, and well, they use posters and radio, Volksempfänger, and now social media. So I say it's really important. I just wanted to say, you show this AfD Poster, Familie, Kinder schützen, yeah, wir schützen eure Kinder. Also when I see that, I didn't know, I knew the two others, but not this one. I really, I see old Nazi really painting. I think of a painting with parents and the three, and I think it's 4, the 4 children, blonde, you see, the blonde, and with the 2 parents, I think it's supposed to be a home or something like that, but
Yeah, like
really,
a roof.
really, as the image, the iconography here, I think it's really,
It's quite obvious.
yeah, really striking here, I would say.
obvious,
So
the
yes,
police
it was just
enforcement
my
is
comment here.
Yes, yeah.
And
No, not
just,
surprising.
I just wanted to add that in the East German regions, there have been really a battle over posters, that is, as posters of ecologists, also die Grünen, were removed and systematically removed when they were, otherwise sometimes they try to modify the posters of AfD or
I wanted to
NPD.
address this topic,
Yeah,
it's
but
very important topic,
they're still relevant today. That I wanted
Yes.
to say. So this presence in public
Absolutely.
space
Yes.
with
Same
other
thing
ways.
in Finland, you remember, Katalin?
And
Yes.
the posters are, there was the virtual space in the internet, but also the physical space, I
Yes.
would say, in the
Give
streets.
one back, please. You see, I wanted to address this. This is the one, a far right party leader.
Yes, yes, yes.
Initially, he doesn't have a mustache.
Ah, yes, we were wondering. Yes,
Some left-wing activist, I assume.
yes, and it goes both ways. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah, but we see the same phenomena. If you don't mind, we'll maybe answer the first batch of questions and then go back to you. So we would like to answer to the comment or question of the first commenter.
I can, because I agree very much. Again, this is a twofold problem. First thing, I'll focus now on the Slovenia, Croatia, etc. First thing is that the other parts of political space do not address these questions. Realpolitik, they do not do that. And the second thing is that in the media space they're not proactive. The far right is much more proactive. They're dictating the tempo. They are then countering, and this is not a very successful scenario. But I'm right about that. We had huge number of immigrants, and no one knew what to do, how to approach, and far-right parties did know that also.
No,
of course
yeah.
not, but they addressed the problem. They use the problem.
Yeah,
They would be
pretend
on the
to have
government.
solutions.
Of course, they don't, and
Yes.
they don't, and they're not giving any hope. I disagree here with Sergi. Make America great again. What does again mean? Some other America. I mean, it's a past narrative. All the far right narratives are somehow, if you ask me, connected with the past.
Thank you. And there was a question for you, Yara, more specifically.
No, but I would.
You go ahead.
To address also your intervention, because you talk about something that we actually were discussing at lunch, and with also my colleague Marta, and we were talking about what happens, right, to the difference between the working class people and the more economically comfortable people. Because a lot of restrictions are suffered much more by the working class and end up turning to the far right, as you said. So I just wanted to say that I agree with you, and that we should find ways also to first solve certain problems of the working class and then putting some restrictions. It's like in Madrid, just recently, a judge allowed again all cars to go into the city. And Vox claimed that as a victory for them, because they were the ones who tried that. And they claimed that as a victory, and as a victory for the working class. And a lot of the narrative that they were building was about they were the true defendants of the working class, not the left. Because the working class don't have electric cars, don't have even mild hybrid cars. Because they cost, an electric car costs 50,000 euros. And who is going to pay 50,000 euros? So first give me solutions, then let's go to that. But there's a clear distinction between who suffers the consequences of certain new regulations, and the working class certainly suffers them first.
Do you have some comments?
About the far right, how to combat the far right discourse.
I try.
How to fight the discourse of far right. It's a complex question and answer, but I think the idea it's the far right. It provides identitarian responses and answers to complex, and
Simple
socioeconomic,
answers.
yes.
Problems.
So it's more easy to say that a hospital doesn't work because there is a lot of refugees inside the hospital. No, it's because there's no money inside making new infrastructure, new doctors. It's easy. It's about, Sergi said about, it's more easy to get this solution to complex and economic. And I think when you arrive at home at 8 o'clock and you have this kind of programs, it's more easy. I think it's more complex that. But I think the identitarian responses he answers at questions that are more complex. I think it's the key to understand, but it's more complex than that. I think that.
I remember Le Pen, the father, who said in
Microphone, because it's being streamed.
Yeah, I was remembering in that way of the easy solutions. Le Pen, he said in one election campaign,
1 million unemployed,
Unemployed,
it's 1 million
1
too
million
much
immigrants.
immigrant.
Very easy
Simple solution for very difficult problem that cannot be solved just like that. So I think it's, yes, and usually a lot of this party might not be in power, so they don't even have the power to change the policies, but they will say that they can do it, that they have the solution. Yes. So, Yara, maybe if you want to answer the question of...
Yes. I will try to answer both, because I will take the lead of memes have a component of truth. I think humor has a component of truth, and that's what makes it funny. It's make it relatable. It makes it it start using stereotypes and common ground. Definitely, when we make jokes, there is a lot of theories of humor. What makes something funny, and sometimes we go for the basis like if it is offensive, it is not funny, isn't it? A little bit. So what makes it funny. So if we even recognize that it is funny, so we understand that there are certain common grounds. For example, if I do certain jokes about women, it is not the same as if other people, namely maybe 50-year-old white men, make a joke about me, being a woman. So there is a discursive idea, and that relates to the freedom of speech, and that relates to the freedom of humor. So putting limits to it, it's like putting limits to the context itself that it can be in told. I don't have an answer or what we should do or not. Definitely my suspicions are about all this, about what is the information that it is given in a meme or the humor, but not only that, who says that, for what intentions they are said, and why they say it now, and how they are going to be shared. So I think for answering these kind of questions, we need to give a step back and start looking at the whole thing, which brings me, funny enough, to the solutions versus problems. So something that we have been agreeing is about how narratives have been more about the problematization, and maybe the part of extremism is the one related to solutions. So maybe we could explore in those directions. And regarding freedom of speech, something interesting that I have been crossing again and again, it's about political correctness and censorship and dictatorship of progressism. And I think the problem is that we are buying those frames, because freedom of speech, I think it affects all of us. And in the moment that we accept the frame of, of being censoring, or the idea of progressism is making me in the cage of a dictatorship, and I cannot say anything because now everything is political correctness, I am actually selling the concept of freedom. So, it should not be the honor of someone in particular. So I think I don't have a straight answer on that, but I think I wanted to touch upon certain topics that we need really to think about and to address. And when we address these kind of things, we cannot really obviate the frames that are going around and that we need to address, because everything that it is not explicitly addressed, it goes in the unconsciousness, and then it goes part to the hegemonical frame, and that's it. So I think we really need to look at them and face them and say, like, okay, so freedom of speech, I understand that this is a problem. Let's face it. Let's discuss it. I don't have a solution, but I think here in the debate is where the solution is. So, yeah.
Thank you. So we have time for a couple of questions. Who has the mic? So maybe, yes. Couple of questions and try to make it quick.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
have a little question for Miguel Ángel. About metal, I have a question. Metal is extreme. What is extreme music? I mean, you show National Socialist black metal. Okay, this is extreme, of course, but black metal, I'm not sure. For example, the lyrics or the style of music could be considered as extreme. Okay, or this is the public. This is mainstream, not mainstream. And metal could be very soft and became mainstream too. Or I think about Gojira, it was during the Olympics. They are ecologists, they are leftists. This is really famous. And some mainstream artists are more extreme to me, like Michel Sardou. I don't know if you know Michel Sardou.
Nobody knows
He's
outside
really
of France.
Very famous in France, but he's really extreme.
Never heard.
Anti-feminist, no abolitionist, about the death penalties, colonialist, everything. And this, no one is saying Michel Sardou is extreme, you know. So maybe we have to consider also the center, because this is a common sense in also for the metal heads to say metal is extreme, but in which sense?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Sorry
there
for my
was
English.
like, okay. Yes. Yes,
to-
and then you. Yes.
To Yuri and Ainara,
I cannot hear, sorry.
Yes.
to Ainara and Yuri about humor.
Oh.
I think this is really important to put on the table, because one of the difficulties of the left is just that the far right people are much better entertainers. So how to counteract that? How to counteract the fact that they're so good entertainers? You know, Trump is a very excellent buffoon as well, not as talented as Berlusconi. Everything started with Berlusconi, obviously, but you can think of different people who use humor as different leaders, right? So beyond the meme. So the question is this: is there a specificity of the far right humor? The second question is to Miguel Ángel. Like, in some sense, he was everything predictable, right? About this section of the black metal. I mean, black metal means a lot of things, right? So, was there anything surprising, right, about looking into the bunch of this guys? You know, aren't you tempted, for instance, to look a more transversal, successful groups that actually have more oblique strategies, like Rammstein, for instance. Rammstein is famous, but it has more oblique, very fascinating, I think, ways of bringing certain themes and feelings as well, emotions, into the public sphere. And to the Sergi, the last question, I think one of the interesting things is that it doesn't work like negative and positive emotions, hatred and joy. Actually, what these populist leaders are very good at are mixed emotions, right? So for instance, joyful spite, right? Trump is brilliant at that, you know, the type of joy that is brought about by humiliating the other, like bringing down the other, for instance, through humor, but not only, right? So it would be really fascinating in this catalog of emotions and passions that are brought about to actually examine mixed complex emotions as well.
Thank you. And we are like running out of time, so I guess we will not take more questions. I'm sorry. Or one more? Can we squeeze one more if you make it super quick? Yes, you were like asking for the mic.
Just that I miss solutions. I think it's when lies a lot the problem, but the solutions are very few. And something that it is happening already in the networks is the fact checking.
Fact checking, yes.
And I think there are very powerful people who are working on that, and I think it's much better to counterfact one of these messages with facts which contradict what they are saying about immigration or crime and immigration, these kind of things, which there are plenty of messages where they are simply fake, they are not true. They are using data that someone has said, and it's taken as a fact, and when you go to the real statistics, very often it's not the case. So I think this is a powerful, and this is very much connected with the responsibility of science in providing this data, providing these facts, which really contradict some of these very powerful messages of the right.
Thank you. So now you have some time to answer the questions.
Okay, thank you for these questions. What is extremist? A metalhead? Heavy metal is extremist, is extreme heavy metal. If you make this question to people that listen, for example, pop music, yeah, it's maybe extreme, but the lyrics not. Yeah, in the heavy metal you can search lyrics from history, from whatever. Yeah. So I think music, in this case, may be extreme. How to play this music? It's the power of the guitars, the bass, the drums, etc. Yes. The distortion, the speed. Yeah. Maybe extreme for a pop music. But lyrics not. When you say the black metal, yeah, it's a lot of kind of black metal, sure. And for a metalhead, if I like heavy metal, traditional heavy metal, for example, Iron Maiden. For me, if I like Iron Maiden, yeah, I like this kind of music. For me, extreme music, it's black metal, death metal, doom metal. Why? Because they are more aggressive. Music, more distortion, more speed, guttural sings. So this is extreme. But the lyrics not. In the case of black metal, there is a lot of families. In this case, I was speaking about the National Socialist. It's few groups about that. Especially the black metal, the most important is Norwegian. In Norwegian, there's a lot of kind of lyrics, especially odes to the nature and to the history. And especially to the satanistic lyrics. Why? They thought that the enemy of the nation, the culture, of the Viking culture is the Christianism. So the way to be anti-Christian is to be Satanist. So the next step was past to be Satanist to be paganist, Odinist. And the next step is to be National Socialist. But there's a lot of groups that they are on their lyrics about Vikings and this era. Is this extremist narratives? No. The next path will be to be a National Socialistic group? No. So, and there's another way to see this. If my lyrics are based on historical legends, is radical? For example, in the case of Spain, if I make a song about El Cid Campeador, this is radical? If I make a song about Torquemada, this is radical? Yeah? Sure. If I told in Catalonia about Almogavers, it's radical? Every nation has its own legend and the heroes. this is an interesting question. We can talk more later.
Yes.
Yeah. And about Rammstein. Oh. Yeah.
We don't have much time, so.
Okay. For me, Rammstein, it's not white music. It's not National Socialistic music.
Of course not.
So Rammstein, it's powerful. The shows with fire are great, and it's German, so the lyrics are in German, so it's more powerful. So a lot of people that listen for the first time, Rammstein, oh, that sounds very, very heavy, and maybe it's malefic, or maybe it's evil, or maybe it's something relationship with a Nazi, but not. Okay, we will talk more about that.
Yes.
Yeah, excuse
I
me.
think it could be a discussion.
Yeah.
Like,
It's more
Miguel
it's more
Ángel is
specific.
really passionate by the topic, obviously, and very knowledgeable. So we really have to wrap up quite soon. So would you want to maybe comment as a way to conclude about this question that was asked about, is there a specificity of humor for the far right?
All in all, no.
Goodbye.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Go for it.
There are disagreement.
Go for it, Jure.
No. After you.
No. So definitely in general, something very typical on a joke, it is if it is a fast joke, it is you have to use a stereotype that it is in the head of everyone, and the point of perpetuating certain narratives for the fact of using the same stereotype that will make easier to connect with certain frames are usually related to the right. So, of course, because you have an hegemonical idea of things, and it is going to be easier to use that kind of stereotypes in this sense. However, I think we have fantastic humor as well in left-wing sides. For instance, we have a lot of submersive humor. In November last year, I already posted the example of making jokes about the José Luises or the hombres, that it is the idea of making, so usually the victim in a joke will be the woman, so it is about making the joke about the person that makes the offensive joke. So it is so the fact that you can create this kind of things, and this is very new, but I mean we have been seeing the carnavales of Cádiz exist for a very long time, and I will not say that they are the right-wing typical humor, but it is true about this particular part that and that really bugs me about how humor can disrupt or perpetuate certain narratives just because of the fact of like creating like the image in your head. But I want to hear Jure's answer.
Yes.
No, we don't have.
To wrap up, no, do you have a final word?
Lunch.
Very quickly, some final words.
Just so he doesn't left unanswered.
Yes, that's good.
I'm sorry to tell that I kind of disagree a lot with your vision on fact-checking, because I think it has proven that it does not work. And in Spain, we have a really common sentence or popular sentence that goes dato mata relato, which would translate to data kills the narrative. And I think this sentence is a narrative. So it's quite ironic and I think untrue. And I could use the example of that we were talking in the science panel about the pandemic and how scientific institutions, scientific committees, experts from all around were being really pedagogical about what we needed to do, and people still didn't trust anyone. And they didn't trust the vaccines, and they didn't trust the measures, and they didn't trust... So I don't think, of course, we should keep doing fact-checking. It doesn't hurt. But I don't think it helps us win anything. I think we need to take another approach. Yeah.
I agree very much with Sergi. I agree very much. It's proven. Unfortunately, it's proven. Yeah. Fact-checking.
Yes, unfortunately. Yes.
Doesn't help.
And unfortunately, this is the end of our conference. And a big thanks to our panelists.
Big thanks to the moderator.
Thank you, and to the organizer and to the audience. Thank you for sticking with us until 5 o'clock on a Friday. And now the floor is to few goodbye words.
Of course.
Until 5:30.
No.